To truly grasp what if why Zoroastrianism was Rome's ultimate shield failure, we first need to understand the world as it is today. This is our baseline, the reality that billions of people accept as normal. Every civilization, every invention, every war, they all led us here. The systems we rely on have been built over centuries of trial and error. We take for granted things that would have seemed like miracles just decades ago. But history has never followed a single fixed path. It could always have gone differently. Every major turning point had alternatives, every decision, an unchosen road. Scientists call these critical junctures, moments where the future split. And what we're about to explore is one of the most dramatic junctures imaginable. Because the question isn't just academic, it's deeply human. What makes us who we are? What systems are truly essential to our survival? These are the questions that historians, scientists, and philosophers wrestle with. And today, we're going to answer them through the lens of one radical scenario. What if why Zoroastrianism was Rome's ultimate shield failure? Buckle up, because nothing about what follows is simple. The world you're about to see is familiar, and yet utterly alien. It begins with a single moment, the exact point where why Zoroastrianism was Rome's ultimate shield failure. Historians call this the point of divergence, where our timeline parts from theirs. In our world, this event either never happened, or played out very differently. But in this alternate timeline, everything from this moment forward is uncharted. The initial shockwave would ripple through every institution and government on Earth. News agencies would scramble, leaders would convene emergency sessions. Within 24 hours, the old world order would already be cracking at its foundations. Markets, borders, alliances, everything built on the previous reality would be questioned. Scientists and engineers would be working around the clock trying to understand the implications. Ordinary people would watch their screens in disbelief, unable to process what was unfolding. Because sometimes history doesn't warn you, it just arrives, and demands an answer. The question now wasn't why did this happen, it was what do we do next? And that question, that desperate scramble, would define the next 100 years. Some would rise to meet it, others would be crushed by its weight. This is the moment that changed everything, and it's only the beginning. The chain reaction has started, there's no going back. Within the first 72 hours, the scale of the disruption became impossible to ignore. Supply chains buckled, communication systems were overwhelmed. Governments that had spent decades building infrastructure now watched it strain. Millions of people found their daily routines, and their livelihoods, in jeopardy. The economic fallout dwarfed anything seen since the Great Depression. Stock markets didn't just fall, they froze, unable to price in the new reality. Entire industries that had thrived for generations simply ceased to make sense. For every problem solved, 3 new ones emerged. The cascade was relentless. International aid organizations mobilized, but the scale of need was staggering. The political consequences were equally severe. Governments fell, new movements rose. People who had never questioned their leaders were now demanding radical answers. And in that vacuum of uncertainty, something dangerous began to grow: fear. Fear leads to blame. Blame leads to division. Division leads to conflict. The fallout wasn't just economic or political, it was deeply psychological. Humanity was confronting something it had never fully faced before: systemic collapse. And yet, in the darkest moments, something else also began to emerge. Humans are, above all else, adaptable, and adaptation is exactly what happened next. Within a generation, new systems began replacing the old ones, sometimes better, sometimes worse. Technologies that had seemed impossible before the divergence were now developed at speed. New social contracts were written, new power structures emerged. The nations that adapted fastest became the dominant forces of the new era. Those that clung to the old ways found themselves increasingly isolated. Culture transformed. Art, music, language, all reflected the new reality. Children born into this world grew up with completely different assumptions about life. For them, the old world was something from history books, distant, almost mythological. Science accelerated in some fields, and was held back in others. Medicine, energy, and communication all took unexpected evolutionary paths. International relations were redrawn entirely, new alliances, new enemies. The concept of normal had been permanently replaced by something far more fluid. Philosophers debated whether this new world was better or worse than the one before. And the answer, as with most things in history, was both, and neither. Because progress rarely comes in a straight line, it spirals. Fast forward 100 years from the moment of divergence. The world you see bears almost no resemblance to the one we live in today. Cities have been rebuilt, some grand, some brutal, all uniquely shaped by the new era. The global population has followed a completely different trajectory. Some regions that struggled for generations in our world now thrive. Others that were once powerful centers of civilization have faded into obscurity. The language of power, political, scientific, cultural, is unrecognizable. What we call progress in our world may not even be a concept here. The moral frameworks that guide our societies were built on foundations that don't exist here. Even our sense of identity, national, religious, cultural, would be fundamentally different. Would people in this world be happier, freer, more connected to each other? Or would they face their own unique forms of suffering and injustice? The honest answer is, probably all of the above, in different measure. Because no alternate timeline erases human nature, it only reshapes its expression. And that is perhaps the most profound lesson of all these what-if scenarios. We are the product of our history, but we are never its prisoners. So, after everything we've explored, what's the verdict? What if Zoroastrianism was Rome's ultimate shield failure? Here's what the evidence and imagination. First, the immediate disruption would be far more severe than most people assume. The systems we take for granted are deeply interdependent. Remove one, others collapse. Second, human adaptation would kick in, but at enormous cost, over generations. History shows us that societies can rebuild from almost anything, but the price is real. Third, the alternate world that emerges would have its own triumphs and tragedies. Not better, not worse, just profoundly, irrevocably different. The most important takeaway? The world we live in is not inevitable. It's the result of countless decisions, accidents, and moments of courage or cowardice. Which means the future, our future, is equally up for grabs. The choices we make today will be the alternate histories of tomorrow. What if why Zoroastrianism was Rome's ultimate shield failure? The world changes, humanity endures, and adapt. If you found this fascinating, hit subscribe. We explore scenarios like this every single week. Drop a comment below. Which what if scenario should we tackle next? This is What If, and this is only the beginning.